A brief note about the author from Unsettling Graduate Social Work Education at DePaul University. Abstract. Social work education and practice have been historically complacent in settler colonialism and many times perpetrated acts of settler violence against Native peoples. Thus, it is incumbent on graduate social work education to include curricula related to this topic. This is a master's thesis in Women's and Gender Studies, which uses focus groups to explore how the Department of Social Work at DePaul University teaches about settler colonialism, decolonization, and Native peoples. 3 themes were identified through focus group discussion: a lack of structural competency, wherein students are not taught to treat settler colonialism as a structure which foregrounds social relations in the U.S., neglect of settler colonial history, wherein students are taught minimally about the history of social work as a field, and even lesser still about the ways in which early social workers capitalized on their gendered settler subjectivity by perpetrating family separations and attempted assimilation of Native children, and inconsistent practices of land acknowledgement, which often did not lead to more meaningful learning or action. This thesis explores non-Native students' experiences in these regards and offers recommendations to the department in order to more effectively teach on these critical topics. Acknowledgements. This project would not have been possible without a network of support which reaches back to my childhood. Unfortunately, I don't have space to thank everyone who deserves it, so please know that what follows is just the tip of the iceberg which has kept me afloat. I'd first like to thank the members of my thesis committee, Dr. Maria Ferreira, Dr. Sanjukta Mukherjee, and Ro Bubar, JD. Maria, your consistent support for my scholarship and my overall wellness is unparalleled, and I will be eternally grateful for the depth of your care. Sanjukta, your careful teachings, particularly at the very beginning stages of this project, have resulted in a fruitful scholarly endeavor. Ro, who I've known the longest, you are perhaps most at fault for the direction of this project and my scholarship overall. You are among an incredibly intelligent and caring team of feminist scholars at Colorado State University who took me under their wings in my undergrad and have continued to hold me to account for our political goals. Thank you for agreeing to bring me back under your mentorship. I also want to thank the Social Transformation Research Collaborative for supporting me and my scholarship and enabling me to compensate participants for their time and vulnerability. This team includes Dr. Julie Moody Freeman, Dr. Billy Johnson Gonzalez, and Alex Delgadillo. Thank you to my partner, Jamie Ayer Munoz, for celebrating even the smallest goals met and helping me to take things one step at a time. Thank you also to my parents, particularly my dad, Frank Lovato, for teaching me the fundamentals of discipline, celebrating our achievements over the years, and taking on debt to support my education, and encouraging me to follow my passion regardless of its focus. You've made me who I am today, however nerdy. It has truly taken a village, as they say, and I strive to make my education and my career as much to your benefit as it is to mine. Dedication. As I write this dedication, the common refrain amongst natives, all my relations, comes to mind. I'm not sure if I fully grasp the meaning of this phrase, beyond the intellectual exercise of tracing contours of social relations constructed by oppressions like settler colonialism, if I even grasp that. Nevertheless, I engage in this work with the hopes that our relations may yet be healed or transformed, that material redress and hashtag land back might be realized within our lifetimes, and that we may be, quote unquote, in good relation, to borrow another common native lesson. I engage in this work so that we, particularly those of us who are born into settler communities and act in settler ways, may learn that lesson, that is, how to be in good relation, and begin to unsettle. Prologue, a brief note about the author. My mom's family has a lot of stories, as many families do, And perhaps it will come as no surprise that one of those stories includes a great great grandmother from Navajo Nation. She was quote unquote pure Navajo, according to my mom. I know her name, and I have several pictures of her which adorn the walls of my apartment to this day. In fact, my mom has taken to sending them to me whenever she comes across one. I appreciate this gesture, as the pictures often include other members of my family, and I know that my own life would not be possible without the many contributions of each of those pictured. My dad's side of the story, or my dad's side of the family, does not have stories such as this, but are often locked in speculation about our supposed native ancestry. Rumors spread about ancient connections to the Blackfeet, Apache, and others. All the while, we have thought of ourselves as Chicano, and in recent years, I've taken to spelling it in the indigenous way with an X instead of a CH, as in Chicanx, adding an X at the end as well to challenge binary gendered signification. While it is very likely that these ancestral connections have some merit, it can be difficult to understand their significance and implications for contemporary life. In my scrambling efforts to suss this out, I exaggerated my relations to Native peoples and began to claim Diné, or Navajo, identity myself. To me, it did not matter that I was not tribally enrolled or that I did not have the lived experience of having understood myself as Native for my entire life, or any meaningful connections with the tribe and its citizens. I was not a child separated from my community, nor was I the child of parents or grandparents who were. Rather, I was separated from and my is in scare quotes, community through decades of colonization. It seemed to me that I was the victim of a long, slow process of family separation, which a claim to Native identity and belonging could help remedy. Little did I realize that I had entered the game of playing Indian, which settlers have been practicing for years. It is through playing this game that settlers further construct themselves as settlers, in fact, so my actions become painfully ironic when viewed through this lens. It was through Chicana and Native feminist theories that I began this journey through pretendianism, as it's often called. While they emphasize the importance of unpacking one's experiences of colonization in order to illuminate a way forward, I did not yet comprehend the settler colonial structure. Consequently, I confused colonizations, conflated indigenous subjectivities, ignored my family's history of settlement, and only further perpetrated settler colonization in my attempts to decolonize. This realization was quite painful indeed. Because I did not speak Spanish, I did not listen to music coming from Mexico or other areas of so called Latin America, and I have had a multiracial group of friends throughout my life. I have never quite felt the sense of community amongst other Chicanexes or Latinxes. This was, I believe, my primary motivator for pretending to be Native. I was attempting to find a sense of belonging through theft and occupation, which simultaneously relieved me of my guilt associated with white settler family history, and quite conveniently so. It was through the settler colonial structure that I was empowered to reflect critically on my relationship with other Chicanx and with Native peoples. I began to realize all the foolish mistakes that I had made and all the ways in which my behavior was harmful to Native peoples. Thus, it was through my own experience of self reflexivity that I have come to know the efficacy of the settler colonial structure for analyzing social problems and devising creative and radical solutions for them. It did not take long for me to discover its effectiveness when applied to myself as a social worker as well. With the help of Ro Bubar, who is on this thesis committee, and many others, I have come to study settler colonialism and our situatedness therein, and to push the entities which I am connected with to do the same. To that end, I take the critique of Kim Tallbear, who warns that non-native people who pretend to be native represent a structural threat to tribal sovereignty and are often elevated as thought leaders with regard to working with Native communities to heart. In completing this master's thesis, I did not wish to position myself as a leader. Rather, I hope that my readers will understand me as the student of thought leaders, who are themselves Native, and who have been producing scholarship and practicing in the field for years prior to this intervention. I also hope that in reading this work, they too will become students of these leaders, and we may all begin the longer and perhaps more difficult process of working together across differences toward a truly decolonized future. Thank you for reading and or listening.